And they can just be scraped off if you're on a tile. Just like that.
Oh, wow, that's easy.
See, that's all there is to that. You can scrape that off and then you can glue it onto little frag plugs. Or you can use your tile saw. The nice thing about the tile saw is it lets you make super exact cuts. That's the reason you're using a tile saw is because it's a wet saw, so it doesn't generate heat. Heat kills for it. But you wind up with a little tiny thing that you go into the frag swap. Now you do that to your frag plug and you sell it. Whoever buys it is full. It has not been disturbed from what it was on. So it doesn't have to heat it. It's perfectly fine, just the way it is. I'd like to have a fight with these boys. What's happening? Chalices are incredibly delicate, right, John? John bounced this one off the ground. But if you look at the light, look under the light here, and I know y'all have to crowd up, you can see the eyes very, very clearly. That's what I use this little LED light for. Now these guys are extremely delicate. So you want to really support it when you're cutting, and it will cut very, very easily. Now, you got a little frag right there that's got two eyes. So he's got a very, very good chance of survival. Whereas if you just cut this piece off on the end down here, he's got no eye. Some of us don't have a heart though. Bird's nests. Okay, I've seen people try to cut these with the bone cutters. It makes a mess. These things are a lot harder than what you think they are. If anybody's always tried to cut them, you know that. But with the saw, yeah, that's what I figured. Really? But use your bandsaw. Right in and cut, and you wind up with it undamaged. Oh, it's okay, she can cut. You there? That's all you can learn. But because you haven't done it right, you have to cut. Put this in a frag plug in and just get that off. It's not even bothered at all. But when you're cutting bird's nests, you kind of have to plan, because these things tend to grow in just into a knot eventually. And, yeah, the bird's nest. Sorry about that. Like here, if you look, you'll see this branch has come over and it has grown itself into the branch next to it. So, when you cut it here first, and then come back, figure out where your problem is. Mushroom on that. This big guy right here. Now when you're dealing with a big coral like this, and you're going to frag the whole thing, I try to cut it down into smaller sections, otherwise you just wear yourself out. The reef keeper, they say it can go up to 3 inches, but you got to go slow. cut it down into a smaller section where you can deal with it. And then from there, it's strategic planning, because you need to look at it and then decide how big a frag you want to cut, what your natural lines would be of demarcation. So you've got a little knob sticking out here. So this one, it would make sense to cut it right along here. And then you can lay it down on the side and come through here, just cut the slices, and you can cut all the way down to one eye if you want to. But you pick your spot, and then at this point, I try to cut between the eyes, because I found that damaging the eyes a lot of times will cost you more. They don't like that. Now the calcium carbonate mud that forms when you cut it, you want to get that off. It won't actively kill the coral, but it'll smother it. Usually I use a turkey baster, but I'm really good at making a huge mess with that, so we're not going to go there. But you manage to cut around the eyes. Which, that's a war coral. In a week, this one would be ready to go to the swap, because none of the eyes were damaged, so it will be more than happy within a couple of hours back in the tank again. When I get through cutting, after I rinse in fresh salt water, I use a coral antiseptic. I'm using Coral RX in this one. And that's just kind of, to me, a safety measure, because corals can get infections. Anybody that's ever lost a zoa or a pally or anything else, or an LPS to brown jelly disease, knows that corals can and do get infections. So when I get done and I've cleaned them off, then they go into there. Okay, mushrooms. Mushrooms are easy. I actually tried an experiment one time. I took a mushroom, and this was in a tank I was going to break down, thank goodness. I took a mushroom, and I literally cut it into about 500 pieces, and I just threw it back in the tank. No, I had 5,000. I don't know how they did that. There was mushrooms everywhere. Mushrooms have the most amazing powers of regeneration. And especially if they're somewhere you do not want them. Yeah, and see, they can squirt too, but what mushrooms squirt is just water. It's not toxin. They inflate with water. So I've actually had calls from people that were panicked because they got squirted by their mushroom. But it's, yes, because they had heard toxin horror stories, so they thought, you know, that the mushroom would, but I assured them there was no mushroom poisoning. If you eat it, there probably would be, but I'm not going to do that. But you just take a, what did I do with that razor blade? Thank you. You just take them. If it's a valuable mushroom, like a sunset or a tie-dye, you want to get part of the mouth. That gives it the best chance at recovery. It's just like cutting an anemone.
What if you crack right in the center of the mouth, then what happens?
You just have to.
You have to.
And you have to. And they'll heal pretty quickly. If they're in, why anybody would want 1,000,000 mushrooms, I don't know. But if they're a not valuable mushroom, you can just start whacking on them like a pizza. And make a bunch of little wedges until you run out of mushroom or patience. But let's just pretend that this is a sunset, which means it's very, very valuable. So you're going to want to cut, I'm not going to cut it all the way through till everybody sees. You want to cut right through the center of the mouth.
It's not that Superman one you were selling that I wanted
No.
so bad.
No, I still got it.
Yeah, I know my wife cut
But
me
you
off
want to
though.
split it. You can look at it. You want to split it right
cut
through
me
the
off.
mouth. Because it will almost, within just a couple of days, it will seal across that mouth and be a whole mushroom again.
So you cut right through the mouth?
You cut right through the center of the mouth. Now, when you cut mushrooms, they will exude their guts. That's these white stringy looking things we got going on here. Don't pay that much attention, because they will pull them back in. whenever you put them back in the water. Now, mushrooms, you can't glue a mushroom to anything. Unless it's attached to a little piece of gravel, you cannot glue a mushroom to anything. The easiest way to deal with them is to have...
Like, what do they call it? Like wedding lace or something? Just kind of
yeah, tweel. You can use wedding lace to put it on a rock and then put your wedding lace over it with a rubber band to hold it in place.
Sewing needle.
Kind of like a bird netting.
Yeah, I've tried that. They get loose.
Yeah, I've had pretty much luck with
I
that.
usually just use a small container like this with some rubble in the bottom of it, put them in there, and then put the tweel across the top until they attach, and you can kind of put them wherever you want.
Or those little balls you get at candy machines for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Drill holes in it and put rocks in it and just throw it in the tank.
Yep, they work
That helps
too.
out a lot.
Of course, I generally just chunk them in the
See where they go,
refugium
right?
and let them attach wherever they want. But if it were a valuable one, which I have a what they call a game over mushroom, and it's or a tie-dye, they're expensive. You don't want to just, yeah, I have one. I actually have two, but mushrooms you can't glue. I see posts like that, you know, how do I glue my mushroom? You don't. There's not an industrial adhesive alive that will stick to a snot ball.
That's essentially what it is.
It is basically a snot gob. An animated snot gob, but a snot gob nonetheless. All right, everybody grab gloves that wants to get your hands dirty.